We here. Well, hello and welcome, Broncos country. A huge mile high salute to you all on this lovely Tuesday afternoon, April 14th. We are only 9 days away from the NFL draft. Could you believe it? And welcome back to Vocally Orange and Blue. Whenever I get on with Miles Smith, that's what we call ourselves because you get to listen to the best vocal cords in Broncos country on this particular afternoon edition. So, welcome in to Miles Smith with Crushing It. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Gonna go on a bike ride after this, but I've been looking forward to this pretty much since I pinned you down for a day here. As soon as you told me Tuesday, I'm like, all right, let's get
Yep.
it, dude.
That's awesome. Well, perfect. Well, guys, make sure to hit the like button and also subscribe to both of our channels. But more importantly, subscribe to Miles Smith. His channel will be in my description. And leave a comment and hype the video if you are on mobile. So let's get right into it. There's been a lot of talk about the Broncos trading for guys recently, and it's going to be interesting because Rakeem Talib on the arena predicted that we would make a move on draft day for someone. Now, he didn't specify what that was, but last month he called Jalen Waddle, while the rest of Broncos country was freaking out about how we didn't make any moves for anybody. And I think, yes, we were all rightfully frustrated at that time. He says, no, 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 guys, I got y'all. Just wait, just wait,
We're
just
good.
wait. The
Just you
day,
wait.
yeah, the day before anything got announced, and he knew something. Like he had to have known something because the day before Jalen Waddle was announced to have been traded to the Denver Broncos,
He got
he
Mike Kliss on speed dial. Trust him.
yeah, exactly. So, what's up, Darian? What's up, Mikey? Respect my co's. Marky Sports
But
Denver is
Marky,
here with us as well. So, we're going to talk about some potential trade targets for the Broncos now. Is there anybody who particularly piques your interest? I know that there have been a lot of names that have been thrown out. I know people have thrown out Achan. I know people have thrown out Laporta, Kyle Pitts. Is there any specific avenue that you think makes sense for the Broncos to go during the draft if they do decide to make another splash move?
so something that I was kind of interested in when it happened was Dexter Lawrence requesting a trade from the Giants, and I, honest to God, think this makes some of the most sense given the draft class that we're in right now. And why I say that is I think with Dexter Lawrence, you've got a for sure guy when you just lost probably arguably, first or second best defensive lineman on the team. I think Zach Allen obviously has the run for the money there, but John Franklin Myers was an absolute monster. And it just felt like
Yeah.
every game, every highlight you looked at, every game that I called last year, I yelled JFM's name at least once. Like the guy was a wrecking crew all over the field. And what ends up kind of happening now is there's kind of a black hole, it feels like, at that like DT2 kind of DN sort of type guy. And I really think that Dexter Lawrence is a guy that Denver wouldn't have to trade like a huge piece for. To be able to go out and get. So in my video that I made yesterday, like I kind of detailed like what were some of their high tier assets, maybe mid, low tier assets, that sort of thing. And you're gonna hear me say this a lot, audience, by the way. But I really think that you could ship a guy like Chris Abrams Drain, a guy that's really more of like a keep a guy in front of him, don't allow the big play. And he did that really well in PS2's absence last season. You and I were talking about that before we got on the show, Kodiak. And I really feel like you could throw in maybe pick 108, maybe maybe like a 6 if they're really getting stingy. But maybe it would take more. Who knows? I'm no GM. I don't know what it takes to trade for people. But I really, really think that Dexter Lawrence you could go out and get, and your defensive line is just as solidified as it was last season.
Yeah, no, that would I could see them making a move for Dexter Lawrence because we know what do we know about this regime? They're going to go trenches. They're going to invest heavily into the trenches, and they are going to give up a lot of assets to do so. That being said, I'm not sure about the whole Dexter Lawrence thing. I just feel like that might be an over extrapolation. I think if there is anywhere though where I am fine with over extrapolating, it might be on the defensive line. Marky
Mm-hmm.
Sports says Powers getting traded, just not sure to who and for what makes too much sense. You know what? This makes sense also because of the fact that the Broncos did give Alex Palczewski a pretty decent bridge contract, especially for an
They
offensive
did.
lineman, for a versatile guy who can, come off the bench and has filled in well at left guard and right tackle over the past 2 seasons. Therefore, they also didn't tinker with Powers' contract. So that
They
is
didn't touch it.
yeah, they're pretty interesting to me. But Mike Kliss comes on here and says, that Powers, they told him that he was going to be their starting guy in week 1. Now, is that just smoke and mirrors? I don't know. Mike Kliss is battery powered at this point, so we don't have to take anything he says with any sort of substance. That being said, Powers being traded does make sense. You can never have enough quality linemen in the NFL, but is there a avenue that you see to Powers being moved off this team to maybe fortify another area of this team that might be needing some help?
Definitely. So I do kind of, in my sort of assets list here, I do have him as a higher tier kind of asset because he has played really good football as a Denver Bronco. Coming back from the pec injury last year, he didn't really look the same. It felt like it took forever for him to kind of get back to form. And I felt like the flip-flopping between him and Palcho really kind of broke some of it's the word I'm looking for, some of the mojo of the line at times. Like I think it got a little bit muddied there. But I definitely think you could use Ben Powers to move somebody move Ben Powers to bring somebody in. Brees Hall is a guy that I mean everyone talks about. I don't quite know what the Jets situation is at left guard. Yeah, Daron Payne too, Marky. But like Brees Hall is a guy that has been linked to the Broncos since last year's trade deadline. Like I think he was expected to be like the big swing that the Broncos would go and get. I don't remember if JK was hurt by the deadline. Forgive me if I'm wrong on this. He might have. Was he hurt by the deadline?
I think the Raiders Thursday night game was the first game after the trade deadline.
That's right. Okay.
So he was not hurt by the trade deadline.
He wasn't. He wasn't hurt by the deadline. What I do think though, days after the deadline. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's Brees Hall has still been linked to the Broncos. It feels like one way or another that the running back position is going to get addressed. And you and I were kind of touching on some of the rookies before we went live as well, just some of the prospects we might like there. I really though, like I do think Ben Powers is a quality lineman that probably goes and starts for a number of teams. I don't know that you want to try to get anything out of Cleveland outside of draft picks, but like Cleveland is going to need some O-line help. I feel like you could send Powers there and maybe gain some draft capital. And then just depending on kind of how Atlanta, I did have Kyle Pitts and Laporta at both as targets. I probably wouldn't send Ben Powers to the Lions, but I would be willing to send him to the Falcons in a Kyle Pitts trade. But what do you think here?
I mean, yeah, there are going to be a lot of teams that need help. Mikey is saying that Houston could make a lot of sense. Their offensive line is an absolute joke. And It is interesting. You brought up the Jets. It does make a little bit of sense because obviously they just lost Elijah Vera Tucker to the New England Patriots, and their starting guard this upcoming year is either, I can't remember if it's John Simpson or Parham or whatever, but I know as far as the tackles, they're set after they got Olu and Membu in the drafts the past 2 years. That being said, there's a need in the NFL for quality offensive linemen. And on the interior, okay, I'm never one to like give assets away on the trenches. That being said, I feel like we do have an over extrapolation of resources at the interior offensive line. I'm fine with Palcho even playing next year, as a starter, giving him the chance to start. I'm fine with that. Mikey's saying Powers and 62. For Laporta, let's work. I mean, the Lions, they do have a lot of contracts, but what are you thinking about?
So with Detroit just going off of like their biggest needs right now, I might send a different guy other than Powers. I don't mind sending 62 over there because at that point, I think you're drafting potentially a better tight end than like everyone after Kenyon Sadiq in this draft. It really maybe Stowers, but that's beyond the point right now. What I like about Detroit is they are, for the Broncos anyway, is they are a DB needy team. And I don't know. I feel like you could throw, and I did say we're going to hear this guy's name a lot out of my lips. Chris Abrams drain and 62, I feel like could net you Laporta maybe another 4, which not picking until the 4th round of the draft is not the most ideal of circumstances. You could maybe trade back up into round 3. But what I mean, you do have a DB that you can kind of expend here with Jahdae Barron kind of waiting in the wings just one way or another. And Chris Abrams-Draine, I feel like, has enough quality film that an NFL GM isn't going to say no to Chris Abrams-Draine, and maybe, that second round pick there. And with 62 as well, like, every team covets top 100 picks. Obviously, the luster falls off outside of the first round a little bit, but it's still a top 100 pick, and those are still guys that they're going to be happy to take a chance on. And that is huge respect to KAD, by the way. That's me saying the guy's good. Like, I think there is a market for Chris Abrams-Draine.
Yeah, no, Chris Abrams-Draine is good, and you know why he hasn't gotten on the field more is because, honestly, two reasons. One, the Broncos quarterback room has been very, very good over the past 2 years, ever since he's been in the NFL. And then also with Chris Abrams-Draine, while he is a very, very good coverage player and incredibly fantastic when it comes to, just being a pass defender, and, Surtain went out, and honestly, our defense did not skip a beat. And that's not me like trying to backhand Surtain or anything like that. That's just me saying that Chris Abrams-Draine stepped in, and man, they got up for their big games afterwards. Like the Chiefs game, we beat the Kansas City Chiefs in week 11 or whatever it was without Patrick Surtain, because Chris Abrams-Draine was able to hold down the fort so well when he went out. So yeah, KAD got a lot of respect from me. I might even get a jersey, depending on what we will see. That being said, High Drama says I could see that same value for Breece Hall. You know what? I could.
100%.
Well. Yeah. But I don't know. You probably wouldn't have to give 62 to make that happen, but I would think 108 or 111 would be perfectly fine as well. Now, BK, I kind of want to transition here. He says, BK808 says, we are deep at DB.
Deep.
But we're talking about, if we're thinking about DB, okay, you do have an expiring contract this upcoming year with Brandon Jones. Okay.
Correct.
Brandon Jones is going to play out this season as a member of the Denver Broncos. But after that, a little bit up in the air. And you have any ideas on where they want to go for that third safety spot this year, and then potentially a starter next to Vunga the year after?
So you and I were talking about this actually pre-stream while I was driving home, that you are 100% convinced that the Broncos are taking a safety.
Yes. Yeah.
1,000% convinced. BK said it as well. We need a safety. So there's a couple of different avenues. I don't know how late in the draft they're willing to go on safety. I know when I did my mock draft before free agency really kicked off, I did have Denver taking a safety, but it was late in the draft, and it would have been Isaiah Nwokobi out of SMU. His thing is, he wasn't like this super athletic guy, but he had like the cerebral and the intangibles to kind of make it work. And I think that there is some value in a guy right there, but he's going to have to play the deepest deep half of his life, and you're not really going to be able to use him as a center fielder because of that kind of lack of athleticism there. I think there's a couple of avenues. I think they take a guy earlier. I don't know if they're going to take him at 62. I think I have a guy that I think they pick at 62 if he falls no matter what, who we'll get to. But I do think there are some quality options at safety that you can take. And you might have to let me know, like, some of these guys, what you think of some of these guys. But you got a, 6'3", Zakee Wheatley out of Penn, 4.62 on the 40, 6'3", 203. As well. Could be a pick in the 4th or 5th round, depending on where he goes. Like, the other idea, though, is you do have two relatively young safeties that you have invested in and kept on the team. I think Devin Key has shown a lot of ability at tackling. And honestly, in the few snaps that he got last year, like at safety, I didn't think he looked that bad, especially after, kind of Jones went down and they were rotating guys in and out. Like, he didn't like stick out like a sore thumb on film like he did in that Baltimore game in 24. Because I know after that game, everybody was saying, hey, please cut this guy. I do. There's been some improvement there with him for sure. And another thing, too, is like, you don't really know what you have in JL Skinner either, because he's kind of been stuck on special teams as well. So it's essentially, what avenue of unknown do you want to go here? Do you want to take a rookie this year and maybe have a competition for that backup spot, and whoever wins that is likely the heir apparent to Brandon Jones? Do you wait until next year to address the need? Or do you roll with Skinner and Key and see what they got? And that's and those are that's kind of where we are at this point with safety. We can guarantee one more Brandon Jones year, and of course they could just say F all of us and all of our speculation and extend the guy. So that is also an option. And I think that his play has certainly warranted an extension if he's able to carry that over into next season.
Yeah, no, I think he's been really good for us. Like he was one of those like cheap budget free agent guys. But one of the problems with Brandon Jones is he played a very, very important role in our defense this past year. The reason I think, his play was still good, but it wasn't what it had been in 2024. I think it's because he was tasked largely with fixing a lot of the coverage flaws from number 49 on the middle of the defense. But yeah, Tyson a decent safety? Tyson Anderson, he never really got that chance. They had a few guys really ahead of him. I can't remember who exactly was ahead of him in Cincinnati, but I remember I saw a lot of Bengals fans saying they never really gave him the chance to earn that spot. So, yeah, I don't know. Probably he was brought in primarily to be special teams, but if he can win the job or something like that, then I don't know. JL is still years away. Honestly, I think he's decent as a special teamer. Yeah, the game against Philly.
Yeah, that game against Philly was rough.
Yeah, the prevent drill, that could have been absolutely
that could have been a disaster.
Yeah. I love them. Prototypical strong safety nickel inside linebacker like He-Man Worry. Well, I've got a guy for you. All right.
So if you're gonna piece?
If you're gonna like those chess pieces, then you're gonna like Kyle Lewis, man. 6'1", 220, runs very, very fast. In my opinion, probably the best coverage linebacker in the entire draft, even though he's not a traditional linebacker. He's really, really good at his specific role. And with Kyle Lewis, he's one of those guys that he's deployed in a very unique way. And I feel like Vance Joseph would covet that skill set, man. I know that he is once again, 6 foot, 220, but 4.53 speed. So he's legit sideline to sideline. And yeah, man, he's got great instincts too. The only thing is, I don't know if he's traditional, but you know what? I feel like it could solve two problems. Like you're solving the potential safety need and you're solving the potential linebacker need as well.
I think a guy like that kind of just plays the whole thing, that can just move around, do whatever the hell you want on defense. Defensive joker. I don't know that you have that versatility. I'm going to use this as a transition, by the way. I really, really like a guy that I love that I honest to God think Denver takes at 62 if they get him. It's Anthony Hill out of Texas. This guy's kind of a monster. I think he has some of the best eyes for the backfield in the draft. I think I put that twice in my notes, actually. Just his read on the backfield is bonkers. It just felt like every read option that I saw him go against, he had snuffed out, or every delayed handoff guy was there. As well, he had big wingspan, and the guy runs like a running back at the linebacker position. And I do want to kind of clip this on VJ too, because something that's really coveted about him is his pass rush ability, especially as a delayed guy. I mean, dude, with what Vance Joseph does with middle linebackers, if you plug and play Anthony Hill as that blitz linebacker, the Alex Singleton spot that he was in a lot of last year, I mean, dude, it's wraps. Anthony Hill is ridiculous. He looked really, really good too in zone coverage, just in some of the film that I've seen of him. Man coverage gets a little shaky, especially against kind of more wiggly. That's my terminology. A little more wiggly running backs. Excuse me. And then they don't love him against the RPO. So while he can kind of sniff out more traditional reads, RPOs are still kind of a work in progress for him. So is that man coverage out of the backfield. But I think that's a guy that Vance Joseph is going to get up to speed very quickly. And I think he isn't objectively an automatic upgrade at LB2. And I say LB2 really because the whole stipulation with Stranad was he wanted to be the starter. And I think Denver gave him that concession. Hey, you're going to get a chance to really be the guy going forward, which is a positive, but you still want some more back there. And it's basically Stranad, Singleton, and then a bunch of unknowns behind you. I think Hill immediately raises the floor of the room.
Yeah, of course. And once again, they've talked about certain things like Jonah Ellis converting to inside linebacker. I'm a little concerned that might, lend them to being okay, we're good at the linebacker position during the draft, which would be that'd be really
unfortunate.
Yeah, that'd be really unfortunate if that were to happen. But yeah, a lot of people saying that we've got split opinions about Anthony Hill Jr. I'm along your camp. I actually think he's the third best linebacker in the draft. My thing is, I don't know. I just think he doesn't play as physical as I would like him to, given his size. That being said, he's got
He
all the tools to play very, very big and very fast in the NFL.
To play devil's advocate for a minute, something that I did notice is there's a lot of times on film where the guy just tackles high. And that's
Yeah.
going to get you beat and that's going to get you beat at the NFL level 100%. I don't care how old Travis Kelce is, you can't tackle that guy at the shoulder pads.
No,
Not happening. You
no,
can't
no, no.
tackle George Kittle at the shoulder pads. Not fucking happening. Like
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no. So I know there are split opinions, but you know what? I'm really in love with the tools. I think, he's made the right stuff to succeed at the NFL. But yeah, you're right that he is big, but it doesn't look like he knows how big he really is. And as far as the looks lost it sometimes, I don't know. I felt like he was, I feel like he was pretty well positioned when he was at Texas. But one guy I will agree with you on, high drama, is Traded Stukes, man. Okay. Traded Stukes is an absolute beast. Okay. Quarter safety, DB, hybrid. That could be very, very fun for this defense. The only thing is, okay, we already drafted our defensive chess piece, and, we like to be conservative with how they deploy these guys. But man, Trading Stukes or Genesis Smith would be a lot of fun here. Okay. I think Genesis is more like the true center fielder safety, whereas Traden Stukes is a better, just pure man coverage safety. But you know what, guys? You guys got to prepare. We're going to take a safety at 62, and our fan base is just going to have to deal with it because we invest into the secondary a lot. So I'm just like, okay. But either way, once again, one of these Arizona DBs would absolutely be fantastic. I mean, I feel like Dalton Johnson would be a fun upgrade from Key or Skinner as well, even though, I mean, maybe not on special teams right away, but if you're looking for just pure uh, football down there or pure defense, then that could be fantastic. But yeah, either way, what do you think of the philosophy of going safety at 62? Like, it wouldn't be my favorite pick. It's definitely not where I would like them to go. And everybody's saying that the fans are going to be pissed, but I'm telling you guys, it's happening. It's not going. It might not be at 62, but it will be within our first three picks.
they're taking a safety. I don't hate it. I do think it does. It feels like they're playing in that situation that they would be more playing the long game there. And really, in round two, I feel like you're going to get one, maybe two safeties that go. Could be. I mean, Downs is probably going first round. No questions asked.
Yeah.
But then you get Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon is an intriguing kind of prospect. 435 on the 40, 6'0", 201. Like after that, and maybe you've got a little more in this than I do. I think it maybe gets a little fuzzy after that as to where some of these guys go. I definitely think they could like happily snag Genesis Smith at something like a 108 or a 111. And I think that would, I think that would work really, really well for them as well, especially like you were saying, like if he does play more like that true center fielder, I think that opens Talanoa Hufanga up to just go like crazy down the line. Once Jones plays his contract out, and I think it gives him a year to develop as well, because I feel like you get a trend with a lot of safeties when you draft them, like they're raw, like a lot of them come out raw, and so it behind Brandon Jones, like it does give him a year to kind of work on his shit, and just like where his flaws are. I think the measurables on him are pretty solid. 6'2", 202, ran a 4.5 40. Like I do think that would be really, really fun, especially, letting him again, like learn behind Brandon Jones, and just like, you get what I'm getting at here. I'm talking in circles.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, no. But a lot of people are saying, you know what? Okay, so I thought initially the fans were going to be pissed, but Darian's saying that we're not drafting a starter, so you'd be fine with that. High Drama is saying, you know what? Don't care. Keeping the defense young is how Kansas City was able to win all those Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes and whatever. But yeah, so Surtain and Allen are the only two you're happy keeping. I mean, yeah, that is true. If you were talking about like aging guys, but even DJ Jones, Roach are kind of getting up there. So you might need to go to the interior defensive line as well. Now, are there any avenues that you could see the Broncos to solving the interior defensive line position? Like, I know you already talked about Dexter Lawrence, but any other avenue? I think that area is best solved not through the draft, but through an additional pickup. But go ahead.
So yeah, so defensive line is really I think like probably one of the most important like just like units as a whole in the NFL. You are not going to win football games if you have a bad defensive line. So something, and I did briefly mention him. You could hypothetically see what you got in Savion Jones. You did pick him in the 4th round last year. I don't know if he was, I don't think he was top 100. Maybe he was. But with him being a healthy scratch so often this season, like you genuinely have no idea what you have there. It really, like, I do think pick 62 is so just complicated because it feels like that there is so much to address, not like a 5 alarm fire level yet, because I do think that there are some deep spots in this draft. But if you wait to take a defensive lineman somewhere like Lee Hunter at 62 or somewhat, or even wait until round 4 and you get oh my god, and you get with a guy like Dominic Orange or Daryl Jackson, I do think there are some really solid guys to be had here, but it's just like it's such a weird spot, and there's no telling what they're gonna. We traded up back in the 3rd round for Jones, so he was a top 100. Okay, thank you for being my memory, chat. You guys are great. Really, I think Savion Jones is going to get a legitimate shot this season. I really, really do. And he has had that year to really learn from both John Franklin Myers and Zach Allen, as well as the rest of the guys on the roster. It's I don't hate the idea of just rolling with Savion. Obviously, you're going to want more depth one way or the other, and that could be something that you address down the line, whether that's bringing in another guy in free agency, or really, just kind of promoting some guys as well. I know Jordan Jackson had a couple of flash moments in the past. Really, though, if I look at it right now, I do think Savion Jones is going to get an actual shot to win that job. But I'm not surprised if they bring in outside help whatsoever.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either, just because of the fact that if there's anything you guys know about the Broncos, they do not, like, especially under Sean Payton, they just do not hand you anything. Okay.
Mm-mm.
They could have easily been like, okay, Riley Moss, you're shipped off to whoever, and Johnny Barron, you're the starter because we took him in round 1 last year. But I think they know that even then, that's not the message you really want to send. And whether it's Roach or Wazarike or whoever that they're going to take to replace.
That is another guy I forgot. Wazarike.
Yeah.
He had some flash moments last year too, honestly. Like his career has been so weird, like side tangent, because like he got suspended the year for the gambling shit. And then there's just like slowly worked himself back into the good graces of the organization. Like I just live for shit like that.
Yeah. And obviously he got suspended for a year, but I remember after a certain game, a lot of people were just like, investigate Wazarike again. But after that game, I'm thinking about the Colts week 2 last year. He played lights out, man. He was a great run defender. And you know what? You could give Roach the chance to be that JFM replacement, but I think he's better as a rotational run stuffer. We were talking about that earlier today. I think he's just better as a rotational run stuffer. And I don't know why you'd want to mess with that. Okay. I don't know why you'd want to, mess with a guy like that. A lot of people are saying Daryl Jackson from FSU. You want to talk about, you want to talk about thick, 6'7". I think he's like 330 or something like that.
So he's listed at 6'6", 315.
Okay. So I was a little off, but either way, I knew that he was absolutely huge. But either way, it seems like a lot of people just want to get bigger on the defensive line because we don't have a true big nose. Okay. We don't have a true big nose, and we also don't have, a guy that could potentially not only be big, but provide that pass rush spark. And you know what? If Daryl Jackson is there at 62 and they feel like he could provide that, then maybe that could be fantastic. If they want to take big citrus there, Dominique Orange, that could be fun too. If they want to take, Grayson Halt, I know is another one that a lot of people really like in that regard as well. That might be fun. But yeah, I think you know what? They're going to give Savion the chance, and I feel like
100%.
Once again, they're going to give Savion the chance. But once again, it's just so weird because he was inactivated for 14 out of the 17 regular season games. So it's yeah.
I'm
crazy.
almost willing to chalk that up right now to just the depth that Denver already had on the defensive line. I think
Yeah,
it's the Q Robinson problem that
yeah,
they had with Savion Jones, because Q Robinson was also inactive for a huge number of games last season. We barely saw him. I really like the flashes that we saw from Q Robinson. I don't want to put my finger down yet or my foot down and say that it makes Cooper expendable. I don't think it does yet. I need to see more. But he put up some flashes last year, but it is the Q Robinson problem where we just didn't see him last year.
yeah.
Because he was just out depth charted by guys that were already established on the team. And I don't know how much of that is his fault compared to Denver already having their guys, because your top two guys at defensive tackle were already set in stone. That's JFM, that's Zach Allen, no negotiation. Malcolm Roach has been that rotational piece for the last couple of seasons. Uwazurike worked himself back into the good graces, kind of like I was mentioning earlier. DJ Jones has been on this team for a good while now as well. Like, these are just, it's guys that a rookie isn't going to come in and dethrone, just because these guys, like, they have that seniority and they were putting up stuff. So it's the Q Robinson problem, because Robinson as well, you're sitting behind guys like Benito already on the team, Cooper already on the team, Tillman already on the team, and I fucking loved Andre Tillman on the team. When they tendered him, dude, I was so happy. I think Andre Tillman gave, like, my channel my best call last year in the Dallas game.
Yeah, that's funny. But High Drama in the chat here says Q Robinson loves to chase the modern QBs that want to run. I'm so happy we have him. Dude, all he did last year when we did
100%.
see him, all he did was make plays, man. Got that big
Guy's a
sack.
torpedo.
Yeah, got that big sack on Mahomes on 3rd and 2 or whatever it was. Got that big sack on May in the AFC Championship. So the sky's the limit for him, man. I'm excited to see him on the field. I'm excited to see what can come of that. So yeah,
I something that I just thought about, like, while we are still kind of talking about prospects and, like, guys that are already on the team, like, what the plan is there. I almost wonder if Denver waits on a linebacker, though, just from what we got from the owners' meetings, because I do quite starkly remember, like, making a whole segment of a video about Peyton saying that Jonah Ellis is going to get some snaps at inside linebacker. I don't know what number of snaps he's going to get, but I think Jonah has the tools to translate really well from an edge rusher to an off-ball linebacker. I think he's athletic as hell. I think he's got good tackling technique for the most part. It felt like just in a lot of spots, like open field, where I saw Jonah Ellis, he was there. Like, the guy was making those tackles. I'd be really interested to see how they try to use his athleticism inside linebacker, and that might make him wait to take a linebacker until later in the draft. Maybe we end up with someone like a Jack Kelly out of BYU later in the draft. But that is something that I just remembered. I feel like a lot of that stuff from the owner meeting kind of got swept under the rug for some reason.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And when you talk about Jonah Ellis at inside linebacker, I know the fan base is pretty split. There are some that think it's a terrible idea. You know what? I'm all for it, because Sean Payton said he's going to play some snaps at inside linebacker. He never said that he was going to be given a full workload or be given the keys to, the cockpit or anything like that. And you know what?
That is a very good point too from Hydra.
Yeah, he said that the May got him on that play fake. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that if you're talking about, like, off ball, but I think, that's still a one play sample size. I think we've seen enough from Ellis to be, like, confident that he has enough playmaking ability to where he can actually be impactful as an off ball linebacker, even if it is just in a limited amount of snaps. But
the crazy part to me as well, like, just that play in isolation, I felt last year the Jonah Ellis was the best guy in contain that we had on the team. Like, in the bigger sample sizes, it felt like he just played outside contain way more disciplined than Cooper did, than Benito did, for damn sure. I know Benito's, like, kind of slowly worked on it, but even then, he is still a guy that Benito specifically, and, like, this is kind of like where I noticed that difference, because 52 jumped out on film to me because he played contain so well, at least comparatively to some of the rest of the edge rushers. Benito gets deep, like, behind the line of scrimmage. Like, he'll get deep and then he'll bob and weave. Cooper, I feel like, is kind of more of like a bull rush spin guy. Ellis played contain to me, which makes this one play sample size so crazy. It genuinely shocked me that it was Ellis as the one that gave up that play, because up until that point, he, in my opinion, had played the best outside contain on the team all year long.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And you know what? I think, with a full off season and just being able to do, um, I think he's going to be able to, you know what, be that guy. I think he's going to be able to be that playmaker off ball. And you know what? I think another bonus of it is it's going to get Q Robinson on the field more too. Yeah, which is good. And once again, it's a little ticky tacky because then you're just like, okay, how much do the Broncos think this is a good idea? How much do they want to go put all their chips into this basket? Do they make him drop weight? Do they forego on a linebacker in the draft because of this? And if that's what happens, well, then you've already lost, and it's already a move that didn't work out. That being said, if it is actually like it was supposed to be, and Sean Payton said, "Hey guys, Jonah Ellis is going to be playing some inside linebacker for us," all he said was some. The key word there is some. I'm sure that they'll get asked about it on Thursday during the pre-draft press conference again. But yeah, that's the way I'm feeling about that.
I was going to say, yeah, like I don't think they completely forego linebacker. I think they do understand that they are going to need somebody just to fill that void. But it is like it intrigues me a lot. Like I think Jonah Ellis could legitimately succeed at inside linebacker, which is why I say I don't think they go linebacker at 62. I still think they take a linebacker somewhere with their top 3 picks. If not 62, I'd almost say 108. Or if they like a guy so much they trade back up into the 3rd for him. But you could say that for any number of spots on this team at this point, honestly.
Yeah, no, you could. And let's get to the offensive side of the ball. Okay, we've talked a lot about the defensive side of the ball, but you know what? We still need to add. With our offense, I know that a lot of people were really, really, really disappointed to see Adam Troutman and Lucas Krull and Nate Adkins all come back. That being said, it can be solved. This is a very strong tight end class. I know you don't like anybody outside of Kenyon Sadiq, or not to say that you didn't like.
I was being a little hyperbolic, but there were some guys where like I just looked at it or like kind of looked at the weaknesses of them, and I'm like, Yeah. Like you kind of just grimace a little bit. Like I see the potential and I see the idea, but some of it's just like, oof. Because I know there's a couple of guys in this class that have some, just big drop issues, and not a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys are F-type tight ends, where I feel like Denver could really, really benefit from having a guy at Y that can reliably not just block, but also get open downfield. They don't need to be the starter this year, but they need to be better than Adam Troutman. You have to get better than Adam Troutman because if Troutman's your best inline guy, we got a problem.
Yeah. And the worst thing about it is you actively gave a raise to that problem.
Actively.
Yes. And there's a lot of intriguing guys, I think, in the Y skill set. Eli Raridan is one of my favorites. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about him all day long. I've loved Eli Raridan at Notre Dame. Runs routes really well, 6'6", 245. Paved the way for Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I don't think they have the seasons they do at Notre Dame if not for Eli Raridan being able to hold it down, not just against linebackers, but against, real edge rushers too, who are going to get drafted to the NFL. Justin Jolie is another one who can play in line, but I think he's better as a move. Max Clare, if you're watching him, I think Purdue of 2024 is a better indicator of how he would be used in the NFL and how he could be once he finally does get to an NFL ecosystem. But anybody that piques your interest?
I know. I think our Discord has kind of like really been riding the Justin Jolie train quite a bit. He's a guy that I have heard a lot about. His size is interesting because he doesn't have a massive frame, 6'4", 241 for a tight end. He did run a pretty solid 4.75. Not the fastest, but you're not expecting that out of a tight end. I do think that he starts hits the ground running as a receiver. I don't know necessarily that Denver would start him in line just because I think he's a guy that does work a little better as an F tight end as of now, but I do think he's a guy that you could really mend into that kind of, Y type. Let's just go throw you at a block before we go play action or tight end screen it to him. Because there was a play that really jumped out on like a middle tight end screen. Guy was getting loose in the field there for sure. He doesn't really have the elusiveness to like make a whole lot of people miss or like really field if he gets horizontal, unless he's got a big head start. But I do think that there's a lot to work with here. And I do think he would make a really good red zone target, especially at 6'4". Just having that big, tall, middle of the field target is huge, especially for Bo Nix, where he lacked that last season. But his weaknesses are kind of right where I'm at, though. Like the undersized frame, he is light by NFL standards. And then they're not in love with his run blocking at all. And where we're already in a spot where we're kind of really hurting for blocking tight ends, that's kind of a bit of a problem. There was Raritan is a guy that I've kind of looked at, and I really like that you brought him up as well. I'm on the same page with you that I don't think I can't think of the names of the running back, that the Notre Dame running back duo has the season that they do without him blocking ahead. It's going to be the same idea, although I do think that he can play a lot more in line right out of the gate than maybe Jolie can. I definitely think he'd be great competition for Adam Troutman.
Yeah.
They're not going, I don't think they're going to let a rookie overtake a guy that they just gave a raise to, but I think that you could do a lot worse than Eli Raritan at like tight end 3. And really like true tight end 2, and with kind of like where he's like average ranked, at least on draftbuzz.com. I mean, 118, that's a guy that you could legitimately snare up in the 4th round, hypothetically. And I think that he would do a world of difference maybe a year or two down the line once he develops a little bit. I do think that you would, and this is in a good term, I do think you get something a little closer to what Adam Troutman was supposed to be out of Dayton. I think you get a better blocker and a way better receiver.
Yes, and that would be absolutely fantastic. Adam Troutman, but actually good. Man, I'm tantalized. That's tantalizing for me. What would I say for Raritan and John Michael Gilliborg in the 7th? Dude, if we took 2 tight ends, I don't care where they would be. I don't care who they are in this upcoming draft. I would be ecstatic, okay? Because the way I've looked at it, okay, think about all the needs we forewent last year in the draft, and we did not take, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're lucky if we leave this draft with 1 tight end, 1 linebacker, and 1 running back, okay? So the fact that I get 2, and Eli Raritan is currently the tight end 2 currently on my board, and I get him in addition to a 7th round guy who I'm really, really intrigued by, sign me up, okay? Oh,
so
man,
that automatically,
that.
You're automatically watching for the roster bubble too, because at that point, I think Adkins is off the roster in a situation like that, 1000%. They brought him back on like some little minimum deal, didn't they, or like some super cheapo contract?
Yeah.
Same with Kroll. I think. Did they bring back Kroll? They did.
Yeah,
they tendered him, didn't they?
I was pretty disappointed to see they did that, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I just like, now you're watching for cut candidates, because I don't think they're going to cut 2 guys that they use top 110 or like 115 picks on for sure. So you really start watching for cut candidates. I think that'd be hype as fuck.
Yeah, I think it'd be fantastic.
I do like that you mentioned running back though, because I think that was pretty much like the 1A to tight end being the 1B, because I think there are still some people that really want to see, like, maybe not really want to see, but like I'm willing to give Evan Ingram the year 2 a little bit, just to see if it was him, if it was a usage case, because I know some of the drops that he had last year weren't entirely his fault. Some of them were. Dude, Nick short-armed him a number last year,
yeah,
and you could see
early.
Yeah, and you could see it, like you could see the frustration. So I don't attribute every drop that he had necessarily to him immediately. I do want to see what he might look like in a little bit more well-oiled machine, or as a part in more well-oiled machinery. So I do want to take this to running back though, because I do think you and I were talking about some pretty intriguing guys, and one guy that I landed on that I really like is Katron Allen. 5'11", 216, 4.5, 540. He's ranked 7th in the class per NFL Draft Buzz. And I mean, I'm going to let you go off on him. You had a pretty solid reaction to him. Tell me about Katron Allen, dude. Like, what do you love?
Well, I mean, with Katron Allen, I love the fact that if you're just looking at, I know that the box score is not the correct way to scout prospects, but guys, when you're looking at the box score, you're not just looking at yards, you're looking at just overall production. And Katron Allen, while splitting a backfield with another running back who is going to get drafted this upcoming draft in Nick Singleton, finished his career as Penn State's all-time leading rusher. Okay, that's no small feat to accomplish that. Okay. And a lot of people think, well, I don't think it's going to work in the NFL, dude. He has a developed NFL first, second down skill set. I think right off the bat, man. I think his vision's really good. I think he has the like sneaky explosive playmaking ability. I think that he provides size that we don't already have in our running back room in the event that something were to happen to J.K. Dobbins, knock on wood. But yeah, no, I think that Katron Allen gives you an NFL ready skill set, especially from the running back position at your RB3, and him and Dobbins could just be the first, second down grinders, and Harvey can be the 3 down guy. And,
Mhm.
you can rotate him with whoever else you bring in. I know that they're going to carry 4 running backs. They always do because one of
They
them has to
always
play
do.
special. Yeah, one of them has to play special teams and one of them has to block. But yeah, I'm hoping that Harvey can just take over that role, even if he doesn't just play special teams specifically. Obviously, I'm not saying I want him to be a special teamer, but I want him to be able to pass protect next year and have the trust of the coaching staff.
1,000%. I do think Katron Allen as well, is a coaching win. Just with how Sean Payton likes to coach this team and with how, if we're going off of the usage last year, because Katron Allen profiles almost entirely as a runner. This guy was not doing it as a receiver. 18 catches for 68 yards, and one of his just pointed at weaknesses is that development as a receiver. If you are taking Katron Allen, you are taking him to run. and that is pretty much exactly what you're taken to do. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I was gonna float this as well. Do you think that he comes in, maybe develops off of JK and then almost becomes like the Dobbins archetype almost? Just maybe a little more healthy?
So I would say so. Obviously, Dobbins when he's healthy is, one of the game's premier running backs. And obviously, even though running back is still a position where the guy you were in college is very much the guy you will be in the NFL, you still
Mhm.
got to adjust to the NFL. I don't care how easy of a transition it is, even though it's still not an easy transition, even though it's an easier transition. But yeah, I think if you are taking Katron Allen, it's one of those where okay, it might have to wait until the back half of the year because typically that's how it goes with rookie running backs. You
Yep.
get the hot hand in the back half of the year. I know you just saw it in Chicago this past year with Monangai and Swift. Swift
Mhm.
was getting primarily the touches in the first part of the year, and then there were some other backfields where that was the case as well. Unless you're taking a guy in round 1, usually they are the bell cow right away. Even Travion never really got his share of the backfield this year because Ramondre Stevenson was really good. But either way,
Right.
yes, to answer your question, I think Katron probably would provide the Dobbins role. I don't know if it'd be this year in spot start duty, or I don't know if it'd be another time, but yes.
Mhm. So, something as well to kind of to go back what I was saying, because he doesn't really profile as a receiver. I think RJ Harvey breathes a sigh of relief because I think he knows that Denver's probably taking a running back at some point. It feels like they almost have to at this point. RJ's role was as a receiver. That is where he excels out of the backfield. And I do think that he will kind of be able to find work pretty consistently because of that. But you bring in a guy like Katron Allen, I think he's a fun developmental project while giving him some carries on the side. And something as well that scouts really like about him, where did I find it? Elite vision when navigating traffic. And I think that's huge right now, where again, Denver doesn't really have the best blocking tight ends. And really, I'm not sure what we're going to see out of a guy like Adam Prentice this season at fullback. I thought he did a pretty damn good job this year blocking. But I do think being able to have that vision to navigate through traffic that's big. And that gives me a huge I think Denver's got to take this guy. And I think
Yeah.
that you could snag him again in round 4. Yeah, he's projected to go round 5.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And then there are some other guys who are really intriguing to me. Emmett Johnson, I know, is a guy that a lot of people are really big on. I'm a little bit lower on him than my friends are, but I still think he's a pretty good running back. I think he is an NFL ready running back. Jadarian
Mhm.
Price, man. Jadarian Price is a guy who is going to, potentially be in play for the Broncos at 62. Anything about Jadarian Price that interests you, piques your interest?
I am quite interested here, and really too, like the numbers that he put up as a backup, I think is pretty significant. Six rushing, or yes, oh my god, 6 yards per carry on the average, 674 yards, 11 rushing touchdowns as well. Really didn't have the kind of almost like Katron, where like he just did not have almost any receiving just anything, like did not have any sort of production there. And then another big thing as well, like durability concerns linger after the Achilles tear, and that is I don't want to say you're almost signing yourself up for another J.K. Dobbins, but an Achilles tear on a running back especially is going to be a huge medical red flag. And he wouldn't be the only guy in this class with that medical history. I think there was a guy that I really liked that has a medical history as well. I can't Adam Randall.
Yeah.
But I do really really like what you could be getting with Jadarian Price. They do like his hands out of the backfield. I just don't think he really got a whole lot of targets, and I think he almost takes that. He would take RJ spot on special teams. That is something that like scouting has like specifically pointed out, is that he profiles I just as a really dangerous kickoff returner. And I mean, they're saying track and field speed, and I mean, we look at the guy's 40, a 4.49, like guy can move. I think he projects as a really really interesting piece, and if Denver went out and got him, I don't think you're going to hear anybody complaining.
No, I don't think you're going to hear anybody complaining either because, what we were talking about before we got on today about how Jaleel and Bidet were on kick return, and all you could think about was
Hmm.
get those guys off my roster. Okay. And with Jerry Price, he's not really a developed third down skill set, but you know what? You're right. Excellent production in a committee. I think his east west movement is absolutely stunning. He's one of those guys that if you feel comfortable about him just as a pure, it'd be basically like an upgraded Jaleel type where the third down skill set is still a work in progress, but and same with the
Hmm.
receiving, the blocking. But you know what? You're coming in NFL ready and you're ready to contribute. And he's 5'11", 202, and I think that or he was like 5'9", 5'10", 202, somewhere around that range. And then that scared a lot of people off. But I'm
Hmm.
telling you, Gibbs, McCaffrey, like these unicorns, as long as you're above 200, I think it can work in the NFL. So yeah,
A
that's all I got to say about
100%.
Price. Yeah.
Really too, like I look at Jadarian Price, and I do like that you brought up Jaleel. I do honestly look at him, and I kind of think Jaleel McLaughlin like double plus. Like
Yeah.
you are getting just a big upgrade in service right there. With Denver likely carrying four running backs because that's just what they do. I think no matter who they take, I think Beatty's the odd man out. And you and I talked about this before the show as well. I think I made my points on Beatty pretty clear. He's a third down back without a real third down skill set. Like he's an okay pass blocker, but what does he really do outside of that? He didn't run the ball well. He had a couple of flashy plays, but that's kind of it. And he was one of the bigger contributors to Denver's drop problems last year, which sucked because I was rooting for the guy,
Yeah.
and it just didn't happen with him. Like Beatty is 100% the odd man out. You don't get plus production out of him on special teams. You don't get anywhere. You don't get in your average production with him on offense. Like no matter who they take, Beatty is 100% the odd man out here, and I mean, we could still see if they don't go in the draft, which would be incredibly disappointing. Like we could still see Denver go out and get a guy off the street like they did with Dobbins last year.
Yeah, of course. And that could be a really interesting avenue to solving the running back problem. And even though it would be a short term band aid, you know what? They still are a little pick limited after they traded for Jalen Waddle. Therefore, I think,
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of is what it is at this point. But, are there any other needs that we need to touch on before we wrap this up? I know that we are at 53 minutes, but, we still got, man, I'll still give you 6 more minutes if you want to keep going.
Hey,
But I think,
I'm here as long as you're here, dog.
yeah,
I'm having a great time, dude. Chat's been awesome. Like this
yeah.
whole thing's been awesome. Like
Yep,
goodness.
but
I
really, anything we didn't hit on regarding the current roster or the draft that you were interested in talking about?
I am actually interested in one last thing, and this also came out of the owners' meeting, and this came off of Sean Payton's lips. Jarrett Stidham his job might not be safe as
Yeah,
backup quarterback, and I think that's big.
yeah.
I think that's massive right now, which is crazy. Like how far the fall off like kind of was like in his perception of like every Bronco or a bunch of Broncos fans clamoring for him to start. And now you've got Peyton saying, hey, Sam Ehlinger might actually get a chance to be the backup here. And I think Stidham faces a bit of an uphill battle in this too, because I think Ehlinger profiles a lot closer to Bo than Stidham does. Not in skill set, and I did say this in my last video, not in skill set per se, or not in skills or like how good they are, but really more just in like the type of quarterback that he is. I think Ehlinger is a lot more run around, get mobile with it, and we've seen that in flashes where Stidham is a little more of a classic guy, a little more of a classic pocket passer. He is willing to kind of stand in there. He'll wiggle around a little bit, but you're not going to get like the same dynamic playmaking ability out of Stidham's legs that you could a Sam Ehlinger. I'm honestly not shocked, even still, if we see Stidham get flipped somewhere. I know there was kind of some heat between the Jets for a minute, but I'm still not shocked if we see him flipped. I still think there are teams that are going to think highly of him as a backup right now, especially when backup quality backup quarterbacks don't come a dime a dozen. You know, just like good starters, good backups don't come a dime a dozen. And I do think either Stidham could maybe become a bridge starter somewhere, or and get flipped for a pick or two, maybe like a 4 and a 5, or use him as a chip as a piece in a player trade. I if he doesn't get flipped before OTAs, though, that is going to be a damn interesting camp battle to watch.
Yeah, that is going to be a really interesting camp battle to watch, especially because of the fact that, you know what? I remember all of Broncos country was, behind him in the AFC Championship game, but I think
100%.
I think a lot of that was just due to the fact that, you know what? I didn't have any time to be sad about, Bo Nix going down. We didn't have any time to be sad. We had the AFC Championship
We
the
had the
upcoming
AFC
Sunday.
title game to play next week.
Yeah, yeah. It's like next man up mentality in the NFL. And you know what? Unfortunately, it just seemed like Stidham couldn't rise to the occasion. I know, it is a tough spot to come into, but the backwards pass, I think you had years to prepare for this moment,
Yeah.
and you throw that shit backwards. So, yeah, I don't know, man. But, there are some interesting guys that a lot of people have pointed out. If the Broncos do end up drafting a backup quarterback, I don't think they will. But yeah, we'll see. Stiddy pick 62 at 27 first for Steelers 21. I mean, realistically,
That would
I
be
don't
for
know, man.
Sadiq if he falls.
See, the only problem I see with this is because I feel like, I know you can't make your decisions based off how good a draft class is a year out, but 2027 looks like a pretty darn good draft class. And also, I just don't know. It'd be a lot of capital to give up for a first this year when I don't know how comfortable I am in the fact that I think there's decent odds that pick could be higher next year than 21. Like, not to say that the Broncos will fall off a cliff or anything like that, but obviously we're still going to be in contention this year. That being
Right.
said, I just don't know about the aggregate raw value. Oh, T Fish
We
says
picking at 32 next year,
picked
brother.
we picked that 32 next year.
That
Regardless,
was
it's
I made
just
that a
risky.
prediction.
Yeah, it's just risky to hedge your future like that in such a strong class.
Right. 100%. Well, last minute and a half here. You got anything before we get out of here?
I really don't, man.
I think we covered about good.
Looking forward to the draft, man. I think you know what? Last year it felt like time was moving so slow compared to this year. And I know that the season ending later helps you with that. I know that not having a first round pick helps you with that. But Christmas is 9 days away, and I'm super excited for it.
I'm pumped as well, man. I'm right there with you. I'm probably gonna go live for it. I think I had one of my guys talk me into streaming the draft, so I think I'm gonna do that. That's gonna be fun. Might call up some of the guys there, have them kind of join the war room there. You are very welcome to join too if you want to, Kodiak. I think that'd be a hell of a time with all the guys.
Yep, you're right. So, yep, that basically does it for me. Once again, if you are watching on my channel, be sure to subscribe to Miles Smith. His channel is linked down below in the description. And also, if you are watching on Miles' channel, be sure to hit me
Go
up
sub to Kodiak.
at
We love this
Kodiak.
guy over here, man. We
Yes,
love this guy. I think I've got you tagged in my description as well. And if not, I'll go fix it right at the very end or just in the post description. So yeah, go sub to Kodiak as well if you're watching on my side. Appreciate the hell out of each and every one of it. You guys have been awesome today. Like this has been fun. Kodiak, you've been awesome. This has been a damn good time, man. But that's all I got. Mile high salute. We'll get out of here.
Salute. Yes, sir.